Hello, everyone. This is Bob Hogan with SCORE Fairfield County, and welcome to today's webinar on modern networking. I'll be your coordinator, and I am a business mentor here at SCORE in Fairfield County. Our presenter today is Kelly Hoey. More about Kelly in just a moment, but first some brief information on SCORE. SCORE is a national organization with over 320 chapters and 11,000 volunteers across the country. Formed in the mid-1960s, and we're a part of the SBA of the federal government. Right here in SCORE Fairfield County, we have over 100 volunteers with a wide range of industry, process, and subject matter expertise, and we offer 3 primary value-added services to small business owners. We offer one-on-one counseling that can either be face-to-face, by telephone, email, or Skype. We offer a wide range of educational workshops and webinars like we're doing today, actually over 150 during the course of a year. And we also offer extensive resources on our website, including access to a network of subject experts. Our next webinar will be 2 weeks from today on Tuesday, October 31st, when Cliff Ennico will present Time Management Part 2, How to Delegate to Others. More specifics can be found on our website at fairfieldcounty.score.org. A few remarks about today's presentation with Kelly. Kelly will not be using a slide presentation today and wants to make this highly interactive, as she said in her chat message. It's already on the screen. And therefore, after she's made some initial remarks, we're going to move right into your questions, and we would encourage you to submit those at any time during the webinar using that chat feature on the lower left-hand side of your screen. To respect your time, our webinar will end sharply at 1 o'clock. The session is being recorded, and the link to the recording will be available on our website, fairfieldcounty.score.org, within the next couple of days. Now, my pleasure to introduce our speaker. Kelly Hoey is the author of Build Your Dream Network. She has been lauded in Forbes, one of 5 women changing the world of VC and entrepreneurship, and in Inc., one of 10 of the most well-connected people in New York City's startup scene, and in other publications. In 2009, a chance opportunity sparked her transition from earning a paycheck in corporate law to seeking equity. Kelly is now an author, influencer, and investor. It's now my pleasure to turn it over to Kelly. Kelly, all yours.
Oh, thank you so much for having me today. It's such a pleasure, and it's been, I want to say, one of the highlights of many that I've had this year with the book that came out in January, and that is to participate in the SCORE network and the education and the programming that and events that you guys have been doing. So thank you for inviting me again, and for all that you do with connecting business owners into networks and providing them with the information and the tools that they need. So, we're talking networking. So let's just say, well, what the heck does Kelly think networking is, and why does she think she's got something to say on this? As you've noted, I've hinted at, I started my career in corporate law, and it has been relationships that have opened doors and created opportunities, from changing law firms to moving countries. I started my career in Toronto, to switching jobs within the legal profession, and then having the chance to move out into the world of, I want to say, business owners and entrepreneurship, and really that point was really transformative for my own career. So what do I think modern networking is? Gosh, it's some of the old stuff that a lot of business owners and small business owners in particular know and do well, and it is realizing that we do a lot of this online as well as offline. For me, networking is every single human interaction. So if you're a business owner thinking about it, gosh, what's your marketing flyer? What's your email signature line? How have you trained that first employee who is now representing your business and might be going door to door, selling your product or greeting people in your store? Everything we do, how we greet someone, how we send a thank you note, how we follow up, how someone finds us, whether it's our website or our LinkedIn profile. So I think once you start thinking about, oh my gosh, everywhere I'm making a human interaction is networking, you realize there's a lot more opportunities to engage and build relationships and start that marketing funnel towards maybe that next client, or to enhance a relationship with an existing customer if we start making all of those things row in the same direction together. So I'm just looking at some of the questions we're not using. For those who have just kind of jumped on, we're not using a PowerPoint, and this is going to be audio, and we're excited people have found the Q&A participant feedback, so we'd really like you to jump in there with some of your questions. So some of the things we said we'd talk about today was top networking tools, of the digital age. And I've hinted at some of that. A top networking tool in our digital age is search engines. Let's be honest, most of us use Google. So, one of the things I always recommend to people is Google yourself. What's showing up? What are people finding? That first impression you may have at a networking event. I know a lot of SCORE members, when I did events in the Greenwich Public Library and the Darien Public Library, they were meeting each other for the first time. Chances are they may have said, hey, let me go and what was that person's name I met, and go and Google what shows up. It probably shows up as your LinkedIn profile and maybe then your business website. Maybe there's a recent article you've been featured in with a local newspaper. Those likely are the first three things that show up. So when you think about what are the best networking tools of the digital age, being active and controlling what people are finding online. If you don't have a full and robust LinkedIn profile, you're kind of missing out there, because LinkedIn has got really terrific search engine optimization, which means that it has got a high page ranking on search engines like Google. And so you have a chance to form and affect what people find first. Next thing they're probably finding, if it's not the first thing, the next thing they're finding is your own website. Have you got that? Is that working your business and what it is you want people sending your way to its fullest? And then take a look and see what articles and publications that you may have or your business may have advertised in or been quoted in, or maybe you listed an event in. And why I say pay attention to that is I've been doing that a lot this year. I've had the great pleasure of having a lot of publications feature my book, but I'm always fascinated which one comes up first. And so you start to learn whose other platforms, websites, tools really rank highly, because that may be somewhere you want to spend more of your marketing dollars or your content contribution or whatever it may do, because it is a platform that appears highly. So pay attention to that, because that first impression you make at a networking event may be reinforced by what people find online, or vice versa. So those are some top networking tools. Another top networking tools is you got to pay attention where your clients are or potential clients. I'm been one who has primarily used Facebook for friends and family. I'm doing this webinar today from Long Island because I've been at an offsite with a national publishing network that focuses on moms. Well, those moms heavily aggregate on Facebook, so that's where they're doing their business. So if you're someone who's like, gosh, what's the best networking, what's the best digital platform for me to be on, you've got to step out of your own shoes and say, where are my customers or clients? Where's the audience I want to reach? Are they on LinkedIn? Are they on Facebook? Are they on Snapchat? Before you light your hair on fire and think, oh, good grief, I've got to be in a whole lot of places, stop, think about who your client is and where they are engaging online. And let's not forget some of those old digital tools, so to speak. Email and newsletters are really important. Remember years ago, I interviewed Michelle Madoc, entrepreneur Michelle Madoc, who has She Finds Media. And I asked her, I said, hey, what's the one thing looking back and with your business you would do differently? And she said, I would have spent more time on email marketing. And this is someone who is very active and digitally savvy and building a business using online tools from Twitter to Instagram, Facebook, suspect Snapchat too. And she's like, hey, I should have spent more time on email marketing. Well-crafted, great content, valuable information that you can deliver to your customer base. People still really value that focused information that's consistently driven. So don't overlook the high power of those digital tools where we often rush and run off to what's the next new shiny object where it's kind of old tools. And which is a good point to kind of stop and say, hey, what's important now in modern networking? Some of those, I want to say, old networking tips and tricks and advice. One of those books that I think is timeless is How to Win Friends and Influence People. And there is a healthy dose of that I have infused through my book, because regardless of where you are interacting to promote your business or engage with your customers, who you are offline and what your business represents offline should be who you are online. There should not be a disconnect. And when we're engaging online, we need to remember we're engaging with other people. So even if you're online representing your business, unless you're some, I would say, big faceless, nameless, I won't put in names, big faceless corporation, when we're dealing with small businesses and entrepreneurs and local businesses, we want to know who those people are. So I really would encourage you to let your personality and who you are in the community and how you serve other people really shine through, because that old adage, we do business with people we know and like. Let people get to know you, and don't be afraid of showing that when you are engaging with them online. So let's see. I love all this activity in the Q&A box. So Jose was on early, and you've got a driving business app similar to Uber, except it's all businesses trying to get in a network with those who can level up my idea to the next level. What I'm really hoping, Jose, is you've had people test your app, and you have had people give you feedback on it, and who have been giving you a chance to test it out in a beta as you have developed it, because that's really key when you're developing, I want to say, tools that are purely digital tools, and you're wanting other people to incorporate it. You say it's for all businesses. Have you picked a demographic or group? This may be a good chance through the SCORE community to say, hey, I'd like people who have this type of business and this type of geographic area to be my beta users and download this and give me feedback on it. That's really, really key with respect to the product. Depending on where you're located, take a look and see where there are co-working spaces, meetups, Meetup is, it can be overwhelming, but you can use some search terms in there and find groups who may deal with digital products, and go and meet people within that community and share with them what you're doing. I have found in my years and with networking in the startup community that people get excited about products and things because they get to know the people, and that kind of gets back to what I was saying before. Don't whether your business is a local hardware store or you are a career coach or a local contractor, or you're like Jose and you've got a new digital tool, we need to get to know people to see who they are and get excited about what they do. As an entrepreneur myself, I'd like to say there's a magic wand or a quick fix to some of this stuff, and sadly, it's like getting that. I want to say it's like getting that washboard, perfect abs. It's sit-ups. It's consistency. It's showing up every day, and what we do every day that makes a difference. It gives us a chance to, make a difference in our businesses and our communities, and find people who get excited about what it is that we're doing and want to do business with us. Jose, I'm gonna fire down here, but if you've got some more information on where you're located, I might have some other ideas for you. All right. Nancy, we see. Hi, Nancy. This is great. Hi, Sharon. Audio issues. I hope they've been resolved. Yes, submit your question. What goes into an effective LinkedIn profile? How often should it be changed or amended? That's a really terrific question, Wayne. Thank you for asking it. Best thing you can do with a LinkedIn profile is make it as full and complete as possible. Make sure you've got a really up-to-date headshot. Let's make sure you're not just a white head with a blue outline or reclining on your couch or a picture that's too casual. Make sure the visual and the image is clear and large enough so that we actually see who you are. I know sometimes traditional headshots, they take it from a distance. Get someone to do a picture that's going to be able to be close cropped and up close so we can see who you are. I've got some LinkedIn tips that's downloadable from my website. I'll also send a link to the folks at SCORE that they can share it so they can send it around to you. One of the things I like to say to people is make sure you use some of the other boxes, not just the experience. We put in all our CV information. Don't just use the experience section on LinkedIn. Projects is a really great one. So let's say, Wayne, I don't know what business you're in. Let's say you're a contractor. That might be a great place using projects, linking it to your contracting business to list some recent projects and give more detail on why someone may want to work with you. Hey, I just, maybe there was a 1871 farmhouse that you did a massive extension on, and you need more description. That's a great place to put more of those details. You also can put community service, because sometimes it's not just about what you actually do, but who you are in the community is between two equal businesses. So make sure you're using the community service feature as well to say, hey, if you've done stuff with not-for-profits or on the board of a local not-for-profit or a national one, include that in there. If you speak other languages, that's helpful too, because we're a pretty diverse country and pretty diverse communities, and that's good for people to know. One of the things I always say to people, which kind of wasted real estate on LinkedIn, and I really do encourage people to do this, is rather than just looking at the summary box as a place to get information, use it in a way that you can kind of mix it up and be more dynamic in the content. And by that I mean create content or create it and use it in a way that maybe you have to switch up the content every few weeks. Because when you update your profile on LinkedIn, your personal profile on LinkedIn, it notifies your network that you've updated your profile. So what I used to do, and I think, talking out loud like this, I should go back and doing it this way. What I did was I would say, hey, here's who I am. I'd put a couple of lines of static text. And because I do a lot of public speaking, I would list in the summary box, here's some upcoming places you can find me. Or here's a recent piece of media. And that, as I said, again, when you update your profile, that enables your network to see what's new and what's relevant. So think about doing that. You might list maybe three recent projects. Maybe you list an upcoming sale. Maybe you saying, hey, you're participating in a local community event. But you could use that summary box in a much more kind of dynamic way. Other suggestions for folks and things I do with LinkedIn, I follow companies on LinkedIn because if I'm looking to perhaps do business or looking for an introduction, by following that company, I can see where I have connections with them. I try them. I was digging out some business cards today and found a few that I had left over from speaking at a recent conference in Orlando, Florida. And I was like, oh, shoot, haven't connected and followed up with these people. So I'll be sending them notes through LinkedIn saying it was great to meet them in Orlando at the Grace Hopper celebration, and I look forward to staying in touch. That's a really simple 1-2 lines of a personalized message to connect on LinkedIn. And by doing that, they'll know, hey, right, that's how I remember meeting Kelly. But also, I won't leave them guessing and hanging. And also when they connect with me on LinkedIn, now I've got their attention, and now I am I can passively network with them every time I update my profile or post an update on LinkedIn. Posting schedule for me on LinkedIn is pretty frequent these days. I do it Monday through Friday because I figured LinkedIn is a business network, and Monday through Friday is for a lot of us when we're in the office, so to speak. I post once a day first thing in the morning. That's what I found with my network, and I encourage everyone to do this. Pay attention to your own network. When and how are they engaging with you? And for me, LinkedIn, they're engaging first thing in the morning. So I'll do one update, and I typically keep my updates to things that are events. Maybe it's philanthropy, maybe it's something with the community, but hopefully it's some information that is going to inform, educate, enlighten my network. It's not a place, LinkedIn is not a place where I'm sharing my passion for passion for food or my latest craze in shoes. I'm a bit of a shoeaholic, but you'll have to go over to Instagram to find that. LinkedIn, I try and keep it just business, and I encourage other people to do that too. So Wayne, that's a bit of a long answer. You've obviously hit on a platform that I think is far more powerful to our businesses than a lot of people realize. And I'm going to slide through some of these other questions. But Wayne, if you want to talk more about LinkedIn, in particular publishing on LinkedIn, I started blogging on there. Ask me another question on that, and I'll come back and do that.
Kelly, it's Bob. I think Wayne does have a couple of follow-up questions, but why don't we take a couple of the others and then come back?
Yeah. And I love this. Jose, I still use flyer marketing incorporated with digital. You know what? I think that's fantastic. Paying attention to how and where. When you get a new customer who says, hey, and you realize it's a new customer or client, ask them how they found you. I think we assume that some of those old methods of networking are getting customers, a flyer, a mailing, like I'm going to say, like a physical mailing, or, that word of mouth. Maybe they heard it from an existing customer. You should really figure out what the channels are, because it was funny. One of the comments made yesterday at this event that I am at in Montauk, one of these publishers said with their community, flyers don't work. But that could be really hyper-specific to that business, that community, that client base of very digitally savvy moms versus somebody else. So really pay attention where your channels are, and when you get those new customers, say, hey, how'd you find me? If you haven't thought about doing flyer marketing, how much does it cost to put together a flyer and print some off and give it a whirl and see what happens? But think about that and think about what your best channels are. If you found that email marketing and networking with email, you want to make sure you're getting people's email addresses. So one of the things, that the publisher mom here at this offsite shared is the reason she doesn't give flyers is she needs to get email addresses. So she physically shows up with, are you ready, a good old clipboard with ability to people to sign up and get their email addresses. So sometimes those old networking, those old business generation ideas are still the best ones, and being able to meet with people face to face, hand them a pen and a clipboard, and ask them to write and give you the information. Let's just see. Thank you. We've got questions. All right, I see another question from Wayne. Is how does one form a relationship with a LinkedIn connection? So the people I'm connecting with, and thanks for these questions on LinkedIn, Wayne, one of these things is when I'm connecting with people on LinkedIn, I'm connecting with people who I've met in some other format. And it may be this. It may be someone, as I said, I recently met a bunch of people at a conference down in Orlando, and I got their business card. Now I'm staying connected with them by connecting on LinkedIn, and I'm personalizing a message. Sometimes I bump over to LinkedIn to connect with someone there because someone has made an email introduction, and I've got a conference call, or I've got a meeting, or I've got some other follow-up with them, and so I bump over to LinkedIn and I say, hey, really looking forward to our telephone call or our conference call, or seeing you at that event next week. So glad that fill in the blank, Bob made that introduction. I'm not necessarily cold emailing and cold connecting on LinkedIn. I'm, using it as that, if there's 7 touch points of the sale, I'm using it as that next or additional touch point. And then, as I said, I'm creating a lot of content on LinkedIn and putting that content out there. I'm paying attention to updates I get from LinkedIn of what's going on in my network, because just like meeting someone over time, building a relationship with them on LinkedIn or Twitter or Facebook, it's something that takes time. Good news is if people are active in the community, and by that I mean in your local community and by posting online, by using these digital tools more importantly as research, you can see what's top of mind and what's going on with these folks and gather all that data in together so you can make, the next best ask or outreach to build that relationship with someone. You can see based on what they're posting, what they're talking about, what they're sharing, what it is that's top of mind for them. And that should give you a lot more information to make a calculated, informed guess on what it is you should say to them next. That's I want to say that we can complain or we can bemoan some of the oversharing that goes online, but people are blogging and posting and leaving all that digital information for reasons. And it's up to us to sort of stop and listen to what it is that they're sharing and getting a fuller picture of who they are so that we can learn how to make a better relationship with that individual and engage with them in a way that is meaningful for them and helpful for our business interests. Leslie, the name of the book. The name of my book is Build Your Dream Network, Forging Powerful Relationships in a Hyper-Connected World. Came out in January by Penguin Random House. Currently in hardcover. It's also an audiobook. It is also an ebook on Kindle or iTunes, and will be out in paperback in January. So all sorts of forms to get it, and whether it's your local bookstore or online retailer, there's a whole lot of places that have it. So you can frequent and purchase from. If you seek to do so, you can get it from your retailer of choice in that regard. Let's see. small business looking for customers without target market, small businesses. So back to Jose, you have downloads every day. That is great. Not heard negative feedback. What you might want to do is the people who are downloading, reach out to them. A quick little survey. Ask them, to give you feedback. I think particularly when you have an app, seeking user feedback constantly is a good idea, because you don't want to start building features and doing things that people don't want. At the same time, paying attention to how they are using a feature is a good idea. Let's take an example of a digital platform that many of us love, Instagram. That didn't start off as a photo sharing visual platform. That had a completely different history, and it had been called Bourbon, and they had wanted to do something else. I have to go back and look at what it was exactly they were doing, and they realized the only thing people were using were the photo sharing. So they said, gosh, people don't want to use it for this other thing, but they sure like the photo feature. Why don't we just focus in on that? So some of this, you don't want to speculate what people may use. You want to get some feedback, and you want to understand what it is and why they're seeking other things, because what your app should be doing is solving their business problem. So we can't assume. Get user feedback and see if you can get it frequently. If you're looking for more small businesses, think about the places small businesses hang out. Hey, that's at SCORE. That may be, hey, how do you show up at a SCORE meeting and get to know other small businesses and talk to them and ask them to download your app? There's some of the things I find with, even though we're in a digital world, the old footwork and face-to-face is still essential. You might want to think about chambers of commerce. And again, look on Meetup. Meetup has thousands of meetups going on at any given point in time. So find out when there's a small business meetup in your area and go and meet those people and talk about what you're doing and see if you can get them to download your app and get them download your app and get feedback on it and see what they can do. So, the cost there is your time, and unfortunately, that's in short supply. So find some good active small business groups and get yourself there doing it. And also one of these things we always overlook is our own network. Empower your own network. If you've been someone who has built a strong network of people over the years because you have been there for them. Maybe it's through your PTA, maybe it's through your church, maybe it's through SCORE, maybe it's through your local community group. If you've been there as a volunteer and built and done things for other people, guess what? They want to help you. So find ways for them to share information on your business. And in this case, with Jose, it's your app. So, to be able to say to people, hey, here's a sample Facebook post and a link to download my app. When I say, there's one thing to email your community and your network and say, gosh, could you share my app with your network? Make it easy for people. I've learned this myself. Make it easy. Give them a sample post. Give them a sample email text. Give them a sample tweet. Make sure your links work. If there's a particular hashtag you're using, use that. And, I've learned this from my experience this year with my book, is people love visuals. If you've got a great visual for your business, whether it's your logo, whether it's a photograph, give that to people so that they can share it with their network. So think about empowering your own network that way. One of the case studies, my book is very case study driven. One of the case studies in the book is Catherine Finney, who had a very successful crowdfunding campaign. And in spite of being a digital entrepreneur and someone who has scaled from a fashion blog to a media company and done stuff on TV. What I wanted Catherine to talk about was her crowdfunding campaign, because crowdfunding is networking, and you need to tap into your existing network. And that was one of the comments that Catherine made. What made her crowdfunding campaign successful was that she had been there for her community, and she discovered when she had reached out and said, hey folks, I'm doing a crowdfunding campaign, how many people in her network really stepped up because they had wanted to and were waiting for an opportunity to help her. So don't be afraid to ask your own community, but empower them with information to share with their networks, because you never know who they know, and be sure to ask them. Let's see. What is the best site for the most accurate demographics? Dave, if you can give me a little more detail on what exactly you're looking for that on that in terms of what site. Each of social platforms will share a lot of information in terms of in their information on what their actual demographics and user base are. I want to say the Pew Research Foundation, they do a lot of information. The Small Business Administration, Department of Economics, there's a lot of disparate information all over the place. You may also find with your local government or state government, there's some good information there. So, Dave, if you've got a little bit more information on what you're kind of looking for in terms of accurate demographics, that would be really helpful. Jose's got a great question. How long does it take to build a solid networking profile? This is why I always say to people, Jose, build your network before you need it. I realized that myself when I was making a career change back in 2001, 2002. I didn't have the network to do it. It really requires showing up every day. So one of the things I say to people is take an audit of your network right now. You may think you don't know anyone, but sit down and think about everybody you know, from friends, family, community, past jobs. Maybe it is former colleagues. Maybe it is classmates. Throw it wide and think about who you've got in your network. And then if you're sort of like, gosh, I don't have people who are doing what I'm doing now you know where you need to start building a broader network. One of the ways I was connected into SCORE is because of one of the SCORE mentors, and his daughter-in-law is a dear friend of mine, and her case study is also in my book. And she had been at PricewaterhouseCoopers and verily realized she really wanted to get into entrepreneurship. So she needed a much more diverse network than she had being a tax attorney within an accounting firm. She also needed a community that was going to understand that she was going to give up a very lucrative corporate job because she had this burning desire to do something else. And she started initially with her research by joining a mastermind group. So think about things like that where you may find a cohort of peers, people who are also on the same journey, and people who are from diverse backgrounds in their work experience. They may bring different networks to the table to help you grow your business and your venture. But it really involves showing up. Maybe it's one of the reasons why I'm really enthusiastic about digital platforms. It has democratized our access and our ability to connect with different people, or, we don't just have to have a face-to-face mastermind group. We could join a digital one. We can attend a conference and then join a Facebook group, and we can find like minds who are willing to help us. But it is that same path and same journey of making human relationships, and that involves trust, and that's reputation, and that is built by how you show up every day. So make how you show up every day really important, and don't feel like, oh my God, I don't have the time to do this. You got to find the time, and that may be, showing up on a chat group That may be making the time to show up in person. It may mean spending a few minutes to look at somebody else's digital footprint and then crafting a much more targeted, personalized, customized email that's going to get their attention and show that you've been listening and caring about what they're up to. So, as I like to say, I use a football analogy every once in a while. Sometimes in life you can throw a Hail Mary and get a touchdown, but a lot of times when you're the quarterback, guess what? You fumble. Guess what? You got to takes a lot of plays to get that touchdown. Guess what? Sometimes you got to call in special teams. Guess what? Sometimes you got to switch it up. So, show up every day and do your best. And as I said, think a lot more and care a lot more about the other people you're trying to reach, and think about how their days are going as well. So, Michelle, I market services to doctors and have a small following on Twitter, but never traits into conversations that lead to business transaction. Am I in the right place, or maybe there's somewhere else to engage with your clients? You hit on a really great point, Michelle. You may be getting information on Twitter. Twitter may not be your business lead. It may be on another platform. Maybe it is LinkedIn. Maybe it is Facebook. Maybe from one of your existing clients you can find out and understand. Have you connected with them? Where's all the platforms, including offline platforms, that you have connected with them? And have you gone to their office? What are they reading? What are they paying attention to? You may find that you need to use Twitter as a information. What's top of mind for them? What's the news about them? How are they being talked about? How's the profession being talked about? You may find that's where the breaking news is, but the conversion is coming somewhere else. One of these things, I wish there was one place where you could go and get everything, but I haven't found a nirvana for that yet. But I do find a lot of business people, awareness or maybe media, insights is maybe what they're getting, or lead is what they're getting from Twitter, but the conversion is happening somewhere else. So you raise a really good point. You may have a reason to be there, but it may not be for that direct business transaction. But talk to your existing clients, or really observe where they're hanging out, so to speak, to see where you can be getting those referrals and recommendations. So, Wayne, how does one speak to community service? What is the best way to not sound like you're only being, hey, share your passion for, this, and I know, Wayne, you were asking questions before about LinkedIn. Explain why you're really involved in that community project, why you got involved, and what it is that, why you found the value or why you chose to be there. I think when you speak from the heart and you speak truthfully, that's, as I want to say, I'm going to quote Muhammad Ali, it's not bragging if you can back it up. Don't be afraid of sharing how you've contributed, and if it's backed up with that passion and that interest and that service first, hey, that's the best kind of bragging, and it's nothing to be ashamed of. Go for it is my attitude. So Wayne, you asked, what is the best way to greet a new connection? Do you talk business, seeking it right away? Are you talking, Wayne? Do you want to just give me clarification? Is that on LinkedIn? Because I know you've had a lot of questions on LinkedIn, Wayne. But that question on the best way to greet a new connection, is that on LinkedIn or is that in person? If you could clarify that, and I can happily answer that question. You do ask the follow-up question on blogging on LinkedIn. Articles. That's that post an article feature on LinkedIn, and that has really been overlooked by a lot of people. And a lot of you are probably in your businesses creating content elsewhere. You may have a newsletter. You may have a blog on your own website. You may be using platforms like WordPress, Tumblr, medium to blog. Maybe you're writing for another site like Huffington Post, maybe your local newspaper. Think about how you could share that content as an article on LinkedIn and contribute there. Because I contributed a lot of articles on LinkedIn, and as I write for Inc. and other sites, I was reposting and repurposing some of that content on LinkedIn. And because I did that, LinkedIn made me an influencer, and that has been really valuable. So I now have people who are following me on LinkedIn as an influencer, and somehow I've managed to get about 375,000 people doing it, and I am eternally grateful that they have found what I have had to say valuable, and they follow me there. So that's really overlooked as an opportunity. So if you're creating content elsewhere, think about how you can post that and repurpose that on LinkedIn using the articles feature. If you're not already creating content and you're saying, heck, why don't I try blogging on LinkedIn? So LinkedIn was one of the first places I was blogging. 350 words. Get in a Word document and put in 350 words. It's not that much, but that's about our attention span. And that's what I've learned from writing for publications like Inc. and Entrepreneur and Fast Company. 350 to 800 words maximum is about the extent of a deep dive. Yeah, people want deep, in-depth information. If you're going to write some piece that's longer than 800 words, think about making it part 1, part 2, and chunking it down that way. Your network will appreciate it. Think about yourself when you're reading content and sharing content, because that is networking. Think about where you're reading information. Are you reading on a tablet? Are you reading it on your phone? Are you reading it on some other mobile device? Are you at your desktop? Think about your audience, and that's why I say 350 words. Make sure you've got some paragraph breaks, maybe some bullet lists. Make it easy on the eyes, folks, and that applies to your newsletters and flyers as well. Make it easy for people to digest and highlight the information that you're sharing with them. Let's see, another question from Jose. Thank you for all these questions, everyone. It's terrific. I'm going to say this now. I'm keeping an eye on the time. Don't worry. I want to get to all these questions. I know the great folks from SCORE have their ways that they share information with you. So I will answer every question. If it doesn't happen in our time today on this webinar, I will go through this list. I will write some answers. I'll send them to the team at SCORE, and they can post them as in your newsletter on your website, whichever way you want to distribute those answers. So I will answer every question because I'm really grateful for your spending the time on this webinar today, and I know you came here seeking answers. Should you connect with others via your personal business LinkedIn when they overlap? Yes is the short answer. You never know. I have opened up Facebook a little bit more on personal. I do have a business Facebook page for the book where I very much share just book information, but Facebook I've thrown my network a little wider there as well, and that's intentional because of where I'm at right now. Being an author is being an entrepreneur, and I need to throw a wide net and meet new people, and so I've shared that. And I have found that, with Facebook, that's a platform some people use as their first point, and that's where they engage first with me, whether it is sending me messages on Messenger or sharing information. So I find I use Facebook, my personal account a little more for business, and putting things on there that it makes it easy for my network to share with their networks. Let me use an example of where I suggest that sometimes this overlaps. One of my business connections, who I became friends with on Facebook, shared with her network her excitement of my book coming out. That resulted in an email, and this wealth advisor introduced me to a journalist. And, you may not think, oh gosh, wealth advisor knows a journalist, but you don't know who your network has in their community. And that introduction to a journalist enabled me to have a really important interview and contribute my expertise to an article that appeared in a widely read national publication in print. It was huge. And so sometimes, if you're growing a business, you got to throw it a little wider there than we may have traditionally used. I also use groups on Facebook, so who are really close friends and who are acquaintances. And when times do I do posts that are public, so they'll be found in a regular search engine, or when it's just for my close friends, or when it is for friends in that wider kind of Facebook kind of a way. So, let's see, what is the best way for a new business to get their name out there? Hey, the best way, Dan, that's a terrific question. Best way, Dan, is to think about who your customer is. And stop and think. The startup world, we do this a lot. You think, like, who is your ideal customer? Really get hyper-specific. Is that new customer a local business? Is that new customer a mom? Is that new customer millennials? And then get really geographically, kind of focused, and think about and visualize, who is that person? What's their day? Where are they hanging out? And by spending the time kind of brainstorming that with whether it's you or with some friends, people who maybe helped you with your business and getting it launched, you'll come up with some answers. And it may be that, gosh, I've got to be on Facebook. It may be that you say, I need to go and meet the PTA at my kid's school. I need to spend more time with my church group, or I need to go into my Chamber of Commerce and advertise in the local paper. Really get into the shoes of your ideal customer and really be specific about it. If you said my ideal customer is moms, not specific enough. Get really hyper-specific, because you don't want to waste your time and energy on marketing activities that aren't going to produce results. So spend more time kind of planning that out, but also understand, and this was advice I got from I want to say an author I think is a brilliant marketer, and that's Gretchen Rubin. And she said to me when my book was coming out, she said, Kelly, let me give you a tip on marketing a book. And I'm thinking, this is it. I'm going to get really super specific, the one thing I need to do to make sure I've got a bestseller like Gretchen. And she said to me, marketing a book, Kelly, is like cooking spaghetti. You got to throw it against the wall and see what sticks. So sometimes you got to try a lot of things, but start by getting an understanding, like a clear picture of who your ideal customer is and where, visualize their day and visualize what their life is like. And that should give you some ideas from doing that of where and how to market a new business. Comment, fabulous headshots. Portrait photography is a skill. Everyone thinks he can do it selfie and make it work. Oh, Jane, you're singing my tune. One of my charts is trying to market his portrait photo expertise. People seem resistant to having a fab photo. You know what? Listen, I would sort of say, Jane, I've seen more opportunities recently where people have offered to give away a photograph. So look and see where people are doing career networking and say, hey, I'm happy to do a pop-up and provide people with a photograph. I'm actually at a offsite right now, a meetup for a national network of online businesses run by moms, and one of the speakers today is a photographer who does headshots and was going to give some photography tips to how to take better pictures, because these moms with their online businesses use a lot of photography. They find that drives interest and clicks, whether that's in a Facebook post or a tweet or in their newsletters. So find ways for your photographer friend to partner with other people who have a local business. Hey, maybe SCORE would like to have a photographer at a future event to give some photography tips and tricks on how you take a better picture, or to have a quick pop-up booth to, give away a free headshot to people, but find some local groups, business networking groups. I'd say, look at your local Chamber of Commerce, look at different groups where people need to have that good headshot, because it's vital, people. Vital, 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 vital. Make it easy for people, but also figure out ways you can give away some information that way to folks, like give away your expertise and get your referrals that way. I remember, I spoke at a Chamber of Commerce in New Jersey, and that was one of my LinkedIn tips. I had mentioned it beforehand and in a blog post how important headshots were, and a photographer attending the lunch came up to me before the lunch. That was a smart move on her part, because she said, "Hey, I love that post, and I'm a photographer, and this is essential." And and I said, absolutely. And so when that point came up in my conversation to this Chamber of Commerce, I said, and by the way, you've got a photographer in this Chamber of Commerce. Boom, right over there. And she came up afterwards. She said, I can't believe how many business cards and people finally came up because this other person said it. So that's the other thing. Find a champion to champion your friend's business in the community. Barbara, any tips for architects, on top of these other things? I'd say, architects, if I was networking digitally and on things, is Instagram. Go and look on Instagram. There's interior designers. I think it was in maybe it was Elle Decor or some other publication I looked at recently. They had a whole thing on interior designers who had been building their businesses because of Instagram. So go and look and see on Instagram. You'll probably get some inspiration there. But Instagram and Pinterest seem to be ones where I would think where you're in a business that is highly visual, that you would want to share information. Don't be afraid to share yourself as well. That's what a lot of these interior designer who have been marketing on Instagram have found. They still need to show their Scotty dog or something personal, because like I said, it's not just the great product. We like to know the person. Also think about, I had this question at the SCORE event at the Darien Library from a contractor. Again, get in the shoes of your customer. It may be that doing some community service work, helping someone with their events in community service, you're going to be interacting in a hands-on way with your ideal customer. So think about that too, not just, gosh, where can I market myself? Your marketing may be just being a great member of the community. I see we have about 4 minutes left. I'm going to check in with the team at SCORE. If there's anything we want to sort of closing remarks or anything else we want to touch on in these final 4 minutes.
Kelly, I think we can go right up to time here. It looks like there's 3 or 4 questions left. Let's see if we can, touch on those before we wind up here.
Perfect. I'm going to take a glance through and see what we've got. But otherwise, what I'll do is I will send to you a link to my LinkedIn tips, because I know we had from Wayne and a few others, we had a bunch of great questions on that. As I said, anything that I don't get to on this webinar, as I look through the last questions, anything I don't get to, I will send you some written answers, and you feel free to share them with the SCORE network, whether it is a blog post link to the recording of this webinar. And I would say, after today, if some questions come in to you based on the webinar, please send them my way. I want to make sure I get people answers. Let's see. I love the conversations we're having. So Steve, a great question on Instagram. How can I transition the significant following audience there to my business of training, coaching, and consulting on face-to-face networking and presentation skills? That's, you know what, Steve, you're asking a great question because some of us have sort of multiple business hats. And to be able to say, hey, how am I networking myself online to get the type of business I want? There was an entrepreneur in Chicago who had this challenge that she shared with me, and she said, hey, I was marketing and networking myself online as wearing multiple hats. And what happened was, oops, people didn't know what to send her. And one friend in particular said, hey, Nicole, I really want to send you business, but I don't know what I should send you. Should I be sending you graphic design work? Should I be sending you photography? Should I be sending you, didn't know what to send. So do an audit of all your networking, from your email signature line to your business card, to your website, to how you're using social media, and are you putting your biggest and most important, what your business is, first? Because if your business driver is your business of training, coaching, and consulting, gosh, that's what you got to be networking. And maybe you've got to look at your Instagram and say, hey, I am a business coach, and I'm also an amateur photographer. And my passion, my side passion is amateur photography. Maybe your photography, you've got to switch up what you're taking pictures of. Maybe you've got to take better pictures of images that and representative of the training or the coaching you're doing. One of my friends is an author, and she microblogs on Instagram. Maybe you want to start trying to do that, Steve, as well, and sharing and giving away some tips and coaching. Make sure the link on your Instagram leads to, hey, how can someone retain you as a trainer, coach, consultant? But you might want to shake that up a little bit, because if they're just looking at your Instagram as, photography tips, start, peppering that stuff in, and maybe peppering in more of it, so that they know what to refer to you, as opposed to just being, hey, great, this is our buddy Steve, and he's a great photographer. But think about that, everybody. What are you networking? If you're, I'm sure as heck ain't networking that I used to be a lawyer. I don't need anyone referring corporate law stuff for me. That is well in my past. And what I network and pretty much stick to these days is being the networking expert and being the author of the book. And that's what I put out there. The other stuff is kind of, it's relevant. It's part of my story, but it's not the main feature.
Kelly, I think our time is up, and we're going to have to bring this to a conclusion. And because I think this is all the time we have for questions today, I just, in closing here, I just want to remind people that we do have 2 webinars each month. As I mentioned at the outset, our next one is 2 weeks from today on Time Management Part 2, How to Delegate to Others, with Cliff Anico presenting. So on behalf of SCORE, I'd like to thank you all for attending today's webinar, and please fill out your evaluations that have been sent by email, and remember to visit our website if you want to access the recording. So again, big thanks to Kelly today, and have a nice day, everyone. Thanks very much.